Welcome. Welcome to strings. This is part of the last module. Module 13. Strings. Strings. C language supports numbers. All the languages support numbers. C language supports numbers, which are actually a collection of digits. And we can manipulate numbers directly. Okay. As a unit, we can manipulate. We can multiply two integers. We can add two integers, etc. But C language supports characters. These characters can also be manipulated. C language also supports arrays. Now, array is a homogeneous collection of elements. That means you can store numbers, that is integers, float, double, etc. as an array. Okay. So either it will be an integer array or float array or double array. Okay, but it is a homogeneous collection of elements. What about characters? Characters can also be stored in the array. That means it is a homogeneous collection of characters. In that case, array is a homogeneous collection of characters. That homogeneous collection of characters is called as string in C language. Usually we deal with the strings. Actually. C language doesn't have any direct support for strings. So no data type called as string is supported. Remember, no data type called as string is supported in C language. But usually we manipulate the strings. Name of a person, we want to manipulate the name of the person, we want to add say last name, we want to change something. Okay, so we will be manipulating the say an array of characters. But C language doesn't have direct support for strings. So we have to implement string as an array of characters, and all the operations which can be done on arrays can be done on this character arrays also. So in case of C language, string is not directly supported, but it is implemented using array of characters. How to represent strings in C? Okay, as we discussed, strings in C are represented as an array of characters. So each element of that array is a character, and because it is an array, so indexing comes into picture. In case of C language, indexing is done using integers, and the indexing starts at 0. But indexing starts at 0. That point you please remember. So string can be represented as an array of characters. That is important point. String is a collection of characters, and it can be represented as an array of characters. So whenever you want string, declare an array of characters. So manipulate as if it is an array. Manipulate it as an array. So, but there are some conditions. A string is an array of characters terminated by slash. So one special character should be added at the end in order to call it as a string. So we have a collection of characters, but the last character should be /0. Remember, /0 is a single character. It's not two characters slash and 0 actually. But of course, while typing we type /0, but it is treated as a single character. A string is an array of characters terminated by /0. Again, this one is important. It is terminated by /0. So you will be using different functionalities supported by C language. Sometimes the /0 is automatically added at the end. If it is not added, you have to explicitly add /0. So general representation of string is like this. General representation of string is like this. So you can have an array of characters. So all these X marks are indicate the array of characters. and then at the end there should be slash 0. At the end there should be slash 0. So example is so say Chenna. So you can store these characters. After that it will be terminated by the slash 0. So the terminating character in the case of strings in C language is slash 0. That point you remember, please. Now if you don't add slash 0, maybe automatically or through your own program, automatically means you will be making use of some built-in functions. So those built-in functions may add slash 0 automatically. So otherwise you may be adding slash 0 at the end. But don't forget to add slash 0. Otherwise you may get unpredictable results. How do you declare a string? As we discussed, it is an array of characters. So it should be declared as a character array. It is declared as a character array. Now what is this character array? So the format of declaration of the array. So the data type. So because string is a homogeneous collection of characters, so the data type is char. And then the string name, whatever you choose, so it's a user defined identifier. It can be X, it can be A, or it can be string, it can be name, etc. Except that it should not be a reserved word or keyword. Okay. So string name is an identifier, and you have to specify the max size also. Here again it is little tricky. So because though you are specifying max size, so slash 0, that means one character should be at the end. That means you can actually store max size minus 1 characters. Actual characters. So at the end there will be slash 0. Including it will be max size. Max size minus 1 characters plus 1 slash 0 at the end. Now again, in case of C language, indexing starts at 0. So at what positions these characters are stored? You can store total of max size minus 1 characters. So these characters are stored from 0 to max size minus 2. So the characters are stored from 0 to max size minus 2. So string name of 0 to string name of max size minus 2. String name of max size minus 1. String name of max size minus 1 will be slash 0. String initialization. There are different ways of initializing strings. Maybe the better way is read it, or using these for loops, etc. You can initialize the strings. That is the better way. But for small programs, you may just try to initialize during the beginning itself. That can be done like this. So char string name, empty brackets, square brackets, equal to the string, actual string. That means the value here, the string value says Chenna. Okay, Chenna, or your own name, say Ramu. Whatever it be, it should be placed in double quotes. You can leave this empty square brackets, or otherwise you can specify this max size also. So both ways you can do. So when you initialize like this, slash 0 is automatically added at the end. Okay. The other way is, so specify the characters within these flower brackets. Here there should be flower bracket. The list of characters enclosed in single quotation marks. That means each individual character is enclosed in single quotation marks, separated by commas and terminated by slash 0. Say C in single quotation, comma, H in single quotation, comma, like that. E, N, and A also in single quotation separated by commas. At the end, in single quotations, you have to write /0, /0. Okay, like that also you can do. Same, you can specify the max size also. And here also you can specify the, you have to write the /0, this flower bracket, this flower bracket. Okay. So like this, you can initialize. Like this, initialize. So string need not be initialized as shown. The value of the string can be read using several built-in functions supported by the C language. So actually not directly supported by this language, but supported by the libraries. So we discussed in the beginning classes itself, these libraries are not part of the C language specification. They are not part of the C language specification, but C allows you to use external libraries. So there are different external libraries which you can use. So they will have built-in functions. And you can use those built-in functions to read the strings also. Apart from manipulating, printing, etc., you can read it. Strings can be read one character at a time and stored into an array. At the end, /0 can be added. Using some built-in functions, you can read entire string at a time, and the system adds /0 at the end automatically. String input output. How do you read and write or read and print the string? You can use scanf. There are other ways also. We can use scanf and printf for reading and writing. So if we use scanf, as usual, there should be a format specifier. For the string, the format specifier is %s. %s is the format specifier. %s is the format specifier. %s is the format specifier. The argument need not be preceded by ampersand. Need not be preceded by ampersand. Need not. Why? Just think, why? Remember, here it is an array of characters. An array of characters. So in the case of array, we discussed in the module related to arrays. In the case of array, array name itself represents the address, starting address. Array name itself represents the starting address. So you need not specify the ampersand whenever you are using %s to read the string at a time. You need not specify the ampersand at the beginning. So because array name itself represents the address or starting address. But there is one major limitation. That's why usually you don't use scanf. One limitation is string cannot contain white space character if you read like this. If you use scanf, so you can read Chenna, no problem. But you cannot read Chenna Reddy. You cannot do it. Because there is white space character. Even if you give the input as Chenna Reddy, it will be taken as Chenna only. That is the limitation of using scanf for reading strings. So string terminates at the first white space character. So this blank is the first white space character. The terminating character is added automatically. So the format is like this: scanf %s, string name, no ampersand is specified. The format specifier is %s. Printf can be used to print the string up to the first null character. Similarly, printf has also limitation. So you can print Chenna, but you cannot print Chenna Reddy. So that is the limitation again with respect to printf. But using %s format specifier and using printf, we can print the string. So use scanf and printf whenever your data or your strings doesn't contain blank spaces. So if it contains blank spaces, there are other techniques or other built-in functions. So one is using getc. Getc, what it does, getc reads one character at a time. See, you don't bother too much about this file, star, stream, uh, these details. Okay, you go with the examples. You go with the examples. Don't bother too much about these things. Why it is file, star, stream. Okay. So maybe we are not discussing it. These things we are not discussing it basically intentionally. So because you are a beginner, so if you want just a glimpse of it, so there will be streams like stdin, std out. Std in is for standard input, std out is for standard output. Or otherwise, you can read from the file. Read from the file and write to the file. So you have to specify it. You have to specify it. Okay. So read this getc reads a character, a single character at a time. A single character at a time. So in case if you are using if you are reading from the file, you can specify it as file. You can specify there the file pointer. So at this point, you can specify the file pointer. You can specify the file pointer. So in case of standard input device, you have to specify it as stdin. So usually stdin, unless you are dealing with the files. But in some compilers, stdin can be avoided. So because it is implied. It is implied that you are reading from the standard input device called as keyboard. Okay. So it returns the character, or otherwise it returns yo at the end of the file or an error. So the simplified version is for you getc stdin, or you can specify the empty parentheses also. We'll see what is the restriction with your compiler. Okay, but it returns a character. So because it returns a character, you have to have a character variable on the left hand side. A character variable on the left hand side. Similarly, putc is the reverse. So you can put one character at a time. You can transfer that character to a file or to the standard output device represented as std out. Standard output device such as std out. So putc std out. So this is the character. And again, don't get confused with this int here, because C actually treats the characters as integers. Now why it was done, that is beyond our scope. Okay, so you can declare int variable, and you can read character also. You can read character. You have to use little trick, but you can do it. So maybe you can assume that in C language, characters are treated similar to integers. So putc can be used to print the one character. So maybe to a file, or in the case of file, it will be the, instead of std out, here you will be having file pointer. So in case of standard output device, monitor or display, you have to write std out, or in some compilers you can omit it. That means putc within the parentheses just C. So that is one character at a time. So you can read blanks also with that one. So, but probably you have to use a loop. Within the loop you can use getc, and for printing you can use putc. So you have combine this, instead of using scanf, printf, combine some loop, while or do while or for loop, preferably for loop. So for loop, use for loop, and then getc or putc, that you can do. So the other way is using getS and putS. So this syntax is like this. So getS the string name which you have to specify here. The string name which you have to specify here. Okay. So if you really go to the language level, this syntaxes become little complex. That's why in many books, simplified versions of it are shown for you. But this is the correct way of representing the built-in function. GetS. So getS is used to get a string at a time. String at a time. So you can have blanks also. That is the advantage. So getS reads a line of text from standard input device and stores it in the string. It reads up to new line character or until the end of the file, whichever comes first. So you type enter. Until you type enter, it will be treated as a string. Say Chenna space Reddy space Pakana space professor, etc. So all those things you can type. But as soon as you type enter, that's the end of that string. So it returns string on success or null. Similarly, for printing, you can use puts. So puts is used to print a string to a string. So you can do it, and even spaces are there. It doesn't matter. It will print correctly. Some of the standard string manipulation functions. So these are important actually. Standard string manipulation functions. So we will be actually using for the most part these manipulation functions to deal with the strings. The first one, strlen followed by some string, whatever it be. So strlen returns the length of the string. Now, one point you try to check is whether it includes /0 or not. That you check on your own. String length returns the length of the string. We will come back to it in the programming examples, but if you want, you can check. So strlen returns the length of the string. Next is strcpy, which is for copying. strcpy copies the content of one string into another. What are those strings? You have to specify. String 1, string 2. So copies string 2 to string 1. Okay. String 2 can be character array name, or it can be a string enclosed in double quotes. But string 1 must be that character array name only. So string 1, string 2, copy string 2 to string 1. strcat, it is for concatenation of string. Concatenates string 2 to the end of the string 1. That means string 1 content will be taken, and at the end again string 2 will start. Okay. Say if string 1 is Chenna, string 2 is Reddy, then Chenna without any space Reddy will be added. Without any space, please remember. Without any space Reddy will be added. So it becomes Chenna Reddy without any spaces. That is string concatenation. Automatically at the end there will be /0. Next is string comparison. Compare. In what way you compare? Or for what purpose? So which one occurs first? Lexicographically or according to the dictionary, which one comes first? So return 0 if both are equal. Both are equal. If Chenna you have written both the strings are Chenna both are equal, so it returns 0. Less than 0 value if string 1 is less than string 2. So Chenna or Reddy. If you take these two strings, which one is less? So according to the dictionary, you have to check from the first character C or, so they differ. So they differ means one is less than or greater than the other. So C is less than the R alphabetically. So it will return a value less than 0. So it returns a value greater than 0 if string 1 is greater than string 2. Say reddy followed by string 2 as Chenna. In that case, so it returns value greater than 0. It returns value greater than 0. So that is string comparison. The other two functions which are used less frequently, strchr returns a pointer to the first occurrence of C in string 1. Returns a pointer to the first occurrence of C in string 1. First occurrence of C. Okay, where it is occurring. So str it returns the first occurrence of string 2 in string 1. So strchr is for checking the occurrence of a character, whereas str is for checking the occurrence of string 2. Occurrence of a string. So where string 2 occurs within the string 1 exactly. So they are the manipulation functions. This you have to remember. These things you have to remember. So this is regarding the strings. We'll come back with the programming example. But this is the theory part of the string. Okay, string together, be united. Best of luck. Thank you.